Most fairy tales start out once upon a time in a far distant land. This one is different. It takes place right here and certainly no longer ago than the day before yesterday. It all began with a group of young actors who decided to put on Shakespeare's famous play, Romeo and Juliet. What's more, they have been given permission to do their play on the stage of the old Globe Theater, and they consider themselves very lucky, for as you know, William Shakespeare himself had worked on that stage nearly 400 years ago. Because it was old, the theater held a great many memories. In fact, these memories were so strong that if we didn't know any better, which we most assuredly do, we might almost be tempted to call them ghosts. Rehearsals began at noon. Melinda always got there early. She was very pretty, but much too young to have a part in the play. She was allowed to help take care of the costumes, and she was busy doing that when in walked the actor who played Romeo.
Hi.
Oh, hi. Come try on your shirt.
Behind him came two of Melinda's favorite actors, one very short, the other very tall.
We're here. Start the rehearsal.
You're early.
Here, practice your duel.
Just then, another group of actors arrived, carrying an enormous portrait of Shakespeare.
Look what we found.
It's a bar.
It's a player.
It's Shakespeare.
More and more actors arrived, and soon the stage was in a great commotion.
Are we late? Nah, our star isn't even here yet.
Neither is Mr. Velasco.
They practiced singing and dancing, and they were so busy that when the director came in, no one even noticed him. Until...
Good afternoon, people.
Mr. Velasco?
I'm afraid I have some bad news for you.
Bad news?
You may have noticed that our star, Miss Vanessa, is absent today.
Yes.
She's been late every day this
Yes,
week.
indeed
Right.
she has, but this time I'm afraid she won't be here at all. She's developed this bad case of laryngitis, and she's dropped out of the show.
Oh, no.
Well, how are we going to rehearse Romeo and Juliet without a Juliet?
We're
all right.
not. In fact, with opening night just 3 days away, I'm afraid we're going to have to cancel the show. David, David, you and Mike start cleaning up the stage, please.
All right, Mr. Velasco, let's go.
Sir.
Alicia, I want you to go and tell the theater management we're canceling the show.
Yes, Mr. Velasco.
Sir.
Yes, Melinda. What is it?
I know all of Juliet's lines. Maybe I could replace Miss Vanessa.
Well, no, you've done a good job as property mistress, Melinda, but frankly, you just don't have the experience for such an important part. Maybe in a year or 2 years.
Couldn't you just try, Mr. Velasco?
Well, shh, I suppose it wouldn't hurt. Do you know the closing lines from the second scene of Act 2, the scene that begins, "'Tis almost morning"?
Oh, yes, sir.
All right, quiet, please. Now, imagine, Melinda, imagine that bench is your balcony. All right. Now, Donald, help her play the scene, will you?
Oh, yeah.
All right, quiet, please. Quiet. Whenever you're ready.
How silver sweet sound lovers' tongues by night, like softest music to attending ears.
Well?
Tis almost.
Right, now you see, my dear, you're so frightened you can't even speak. Imagine if there were an audience out there.
Tis almost.
All right, enough. Enough. The show is canceled. Clean off the stage. Go get some lunch. Be back here in half an hour with your scripts. Turn in your scripts in half an hour, please.
And Melinda was left alone with her broken dreams on the darkening stage.
'Tis almost morning. I would have thee, God.
Melinda sat on the edge of the stage and began to cry. She closed her eyes as tightly as she could and tried to pretend the disaster had never happened. Before she knew it, she was drifting into a troubled sleep. And then some very strange things began to happen. A mysterious mist crept across the stage. Eerie blue lights flickered about in the shadows of the balconies. And an old lute, left behind by one of the actors, suddenly began to glow, floated up off the stage, and started to play itself. Now, a lute that plays itself is a very odd thing to see, but what followed was odder still. For the lute swooped across the stage and came to rest in the hands of a mysterious figure who stepped out from behind a piece of scenery. From the way he was dressed, he appeared to be a minstrel, a strolling singer whose like had not been seen on earth for hundreds of years. Sure enough, no sooner had he taken hold of the magic lute than he began to play and sing.
I am a wandering minstrel, I travel far and near to sing of merry England in the days of Will Shakespeare. For Shakespeare wrote of maidens fair and ghostly spirits thin as air, of villains and their tyrannies and heroes everywhere. With only pen and ink for tools, he created kings and fools. Come follow me and see the way is clear. Come join a wandering minstrel in the world of Will Shakespeare.
And the minstrel turned and gestured. The back wall of the stage evaporated. In its place appeared the mouth of an immense underground cavern. The walls of the cavern shimmered with a golden light. It was clear that somebody lived there, for a great banquet table in the center of the cavern was laid out for a feast. A luminous portrait of Shakespeare sat high up on the wall, looked down on the scene, and below it stood a golden throne. Next to the throne, as if to guard it, was a suit of armor. Stone passageways led out of the cavern in all directions, and from one of these passageways floated two more ghostly figures. They were dressed in strange, old-fashioned clothes, and they seemed to be fighting a duel, only very slowly, like figures in a dream. Their shouting awakened Melinda.
Hey! Hey!
Oh dear. How did you get in here? What's happening?
These are the ghosts of Shakespeare's plays, phantoms of forgotten days, created by the magic of his pen. Spirits of the globe are they, who never see the light of day and flee before the sight of mortal men. But when the stage is empty, the actors all gone home, the spirits of the playhouse about the stage to roam. They walk the boards, the kings and clowns, some wear rags and some wear crowns, and some wear swords and one a velvet robe. They haunt the silent shadows, these phantoms of the globe.
And the minstrel vanished, leaving Melinda alone with the dueling spirits. She recognized them at once as Sir Andrew Aguecheek and Sir Toby Belch from Shakespeare's play, The Twelfth Night. Sir Andrew was very tall, Sir Toby very short. Melinda couldn't decide whether to be frightened of them because they were ghosts or laugh at them because they were so clumsy. Just at that moment, the lights in the cavern grew very bright, and the two spirits came dueling furiously right towards Melinda.
Bone bag!
Lard cake!
I'll section thee!
I'll slice thee like ham,
Like ham, thou sayest, wherefore like ham?
for that thou art like unto a great pig.
Have at thee, thou silly preening rooster!
Andrew swatted Toby right across the seat of his pants.
Oh, dear. Stop.
Ha! Once more into the breaches, dear friends.
Stop it this instant. You'll kill yourselves with clumsiness.
Thou simpering string bean!
Stop it. Both of you.
Both duelers paused with their swords in midair and looked at Melinda in astonishment. Then, one at a time, they leaped to her side, almost trampling her in their eagerness to be friendly.
Oh, what ho! A maiden in distress!
Fear not. Sir Andrew Aguecheek will protect thee.
Ignore the fool. I, Sir Toby Belch, will protect thee.
Ouch! I don't need protecting except from the two of you. Whatever are you quarreling about anyway?
He would usurp the place of honor that belongs by right to me.
Nay, to me, poltroon.
Place of honor at what?
Verily. At the banquet, of course. It's about to begin.
Won't you join us?
Offering Melinda their arms, they turned toward the banquet table. As they did so, spirits came pouring into the cavern from every direction. They wore the strangest, most beautiful clothes Melinda had ever seen, for they were all great lords and ladies from Shakespeare's plays. Here came King Henry VIII, fat and jolly, with 3 mugs of ale in his great fist. Dame Ford, from the Merry Wives of Windsor, set a steaming platter on the table. The last to enter was Romeo. My, thought Melinda, he looks just like the Romeo in our play. Before long, they were all seated at the table, and Melinda found herself forgetting to be frightened and enjoying the party very much.
Food! I say bring me food! Good morrow, masters. Have to drink.
Good morrow, your lordship.
Thank your lordship. What have we here? A mortal by the looks of it, and a fair one at that. Welcome. Silence. Silence. Silence! Oh. Spirits, we bid thee welcome to our revels, and welcome likewise to the mortal in our midst. We greet thee most heartily, and to thy health, a toast! And now to the feast. There's pippins and cease to come. Enter food, and let King Henry take thy measure.
Bring up, Lord, thy subject tyrant, lest the gout send thee to a king-sized bed.
Don't be hanged! I've a king-sized hunger and thirst. But hold! Tell me, where is my merry Puck? Come forth, thou scamp, and give us an entertainment ere the feast arrive.
The bright little elf that appeared was indeed Puck from A Midsummer Night's Dream. He was dressed all in leaves, and he began turning cartwheels at once. Then, without warning, he grabbed Dame Ford's purse right out of her hands.
Here, bring that back, thou rascal!
He shook the purse till it was empty and handed it to Sir Andrew.
What's this?
Puck made a magic sign, reached to the empty purse, and began pulling out a beautiful silk ribbon which stretched all the way to the suit of armor. He knocked on the armor, and the helmet flew open. Puck gave the armor a great bash, and a big cloud of dust floated out of the helmet. Then Puck whirled and pulled a scrawny chicken from King Henry's beard.
What's this? Unhand my beard, thou imp!
There's thy food, lucky!
Round and round the table Puck danced, pulling bouquets of flowers from pitchers and mugs and dishes and every imaginable place. Oh, he was a very clever little elf, and a very mischievous one. Melinda thought him quite the most amusing thing she had ever seen. He gathered all the bouquets of flowers together, did a quick somersault, and handed the flowers to Dame Ford.
Bless you, good Sprite.
Then he laughed, and like magic, he was gone.
A health, I say, to a merry Puck. A health!
And to the lovely mortal in our midst.
He is ever our Romeo.
Melinda could scarcely believe it. Was she actually dancing with Romeo? King Henry and Dame Ford rose to join the dance.
Wouldst thou do me honor, good Mistress Ford?
All right, Willie.
With Sir Andrew and Toby close behind.
And I say I dance most nimbly.
Aye, if a wanting pig be nimble. I, in my turn, dance most graceful.
If his swinging scarecrow be graceful.
I'll teach thee dancing.
Nay, I'll teach thee dancing.
Of course, they weren't very good dancers.
Do they laugh at me?
Nay, with us, fool.
And they soon had the whole merry company helpless with laughter. Harder and harder they laughed, whirling all about the cavern, when suddenly an evil wind sprang up, turning the air dark and cold.
What is this strange chill?
Something evil this way comes.
Look, in yon grotto. Aye, 'tis the witch.
The frightened little group of spirits huddled together. High above the cave floor, in a grotto full of bats and cobwebs, one of the evil witches from Macbeth began to materialize out of thin air. Suddenly, a mighty thunderbolt shot from the grotto to the floor, carrying the witch with it.
So, my pretties, you thought to hold a banquet without inviting me, did you?
Oh, but please, evil one, we meant no harm.
Ah, foolish spirits! Is this your feast? Poor fare indeed. If it's a banquet you want, then a banquet I'll give you. A drink of doom! A taste of terror! A feast of fear! And it is time, my lovelies. Time for the main course.
Fluttering her filthy rags, the witch began to mutter and gesture at the banquet table.
Oh, wicked Master Caliban, Lord of all that is gold and slime, I bid thee come forth.
While the spirits watched in terror, the top of the banquet table opened like a monstrous gaping mouth. Within lay a foul-smelling pit. Smoke and screams and lightning boiled from the mouth of the pit. And far below, they could hear the approaching footsteps of the monster as he climbed up toward them. The dreadful scene faded from Melinda's vision, and the minstrel stepped out of the shadows to continue his song.
And Shakespeare wrote of doom and death, of witches with their icy breath. The one that now before you stands is from the play Macbeth. But fouler still is Caliban. He's partly monster, partly man. A creature from the tempest, lord of sorcery and death.
The minstrel vanished once more, leaving the quaking spirits to face the horrible monster from Shakespeare's play, The Tempest. Caliban growled at them from across the cavern, his scales oozing slime.
Save us, King Henry!
Alas, I am no match for Caliban. There is only one spirit in all the world mighty enough to protect us.
The good wizard Prospero!
Fools! Prospero is old! He cannot save you now!
He is our only hope!
Nothing can save you now!
The witch crept nearer. Caliban slithered forward. Suddenly, Caliban and the witch flew at the poor spirits, scattering them like dead leaves. The spirits fled in confusion, seeking any exit they could find. In an instant, the cavern was deserted, except for the witch, except for Caliban, except for Melinda. In the panic, she had been left behind, and now she was trapped.
Melinda! Flee!
Brave Romeo. He alone had returned to rescue Melinda. It was a dangerous thing to do, for Caliban whirled and cast a spell that froze him to stone. The sight of Romeo being turned to stone before her very eyes upset Melinda so much that she fainted dead away on the stair in front of the throne.
What witchcraft is this? I cannot move!
With Melinda unconscious and Romeo frozen, Caliban and the witch went about their evil work. They covered Melinda's fallen form with a great golden cloak. Romeo struggled helplessly.
Harm her not, thou rough beast! Dark power is here!
Muttering their terrible spell, the witch and Caliban stepped back. The golden cloak, with Melinda beneath it, rose slowly from the stair and floated up into the gray air above their heads. With a cry of despair, Romeo broke free of his unseen bonds.
Melinda!
Rushing to her floating form, Romeo pulled away the cloak. There was nothing beneath it but air and silence. Melinda had disappeared. In despair, Romeo cried out for help.
Oh, good Prospero, mightiest of wizards, wherever thou may be, if ever thou didst help poor mortal, help Melinda now.
As if in answer to Romeo's plea, the sound of a mighty celestial organ echoed through the cavern.
Look where he comes!
I come.
Following the point of the witch's quivering finger, Romeo raised his eyes to the picture frame that only moments before had held a portrait of Shakespeare. In its place now stood the shining image of an old man in a long white robe. The image dissolved, and Prospero himself stepped out of the golden cloud surrounding the throne.
All honor to thee, mighty Prospero.
Be thou at peace, good Romeo.
A blinding, beautiful light froze time itself as the minstrel stepped forth to continue his song.
One final ghost I'd have thee know, the mighty wizard Prospero. Shakespeare made him gentle, wise, and kind. Only he can break the spell these savage monsters weave so well, and put all this unhappiness behind. But years ago he promised, and solemnly he swore, to bury all his magic and practice it no more. So let us watch, and we shall find if Prospero will change his mind and rescue poor Melinda from her plight, and conquer Caliban's darkness with wisdom, truth, and light.
As the minstrel vanished, Prospero stepped down from his throne and walked to the center of the cavern. Wherever he moved, a pool of soft, pure radiance surrounded him.
Good Prospero, do but say what must be done to bring Melinda back again.
Fetch me 3 spears and yonder tapestry.
While Caliban and the witch looked on from across the cavern, Romeo took down the spears and tapestry that hung on the wall next to the suit of armor. Leaning the points of the spears against one another, Prospero made of them a perfect tripod. Around this he wound the red tapestry so that it formed a tiny tent before the throne.
Now fetch yon helmet. Here I cast my spell.
Romeo returned with the silver helmet. Prospero balanced it above the spears and raised his mighty staff. The pool of light about him grew brighter.
By fire and air, restore.
To Romeo's amazement, the small figure Prospero had built with nothing but sticks and cloth and metal began to stir. It lifted, turned, and out stepped Melinda.
Melinda?
Romeo?
This was too much for the wicked witch. She darted forward with a cry of rage, tore the cloth from Melinda's shoulders, and began to stamp it into the cave floor beneath her feet.
Oh, fools! Fools! 13 times fools! Oh!
Be still, unearthly hag.
Once more, Prospero raised his mighty staff.
By air and stone, begone, begone.
And the ugly witch melted clean away, leaving behind nothing but a smoldering pile of rags on the cavern floor.
Oh, dear.
Prospero, take heed!
Like a poisonous reptile, Caliban slithered from his dark corner toward Prospero.
So, my ancient enemy, we meet again at last.
As Prospero stood to face Caliban in the center of the cavern, the minstrel reappeared on a rocky ledge and continued his story.
Now the battle lines are drawn. Now the challenge has been thrown. Good or evil, who will win the day? Caliban is for the fight, to prove his strength and test his might, and whither kindly Prospero away? For Prospero is aging, his eyes are dim with tears. He hasn't practiced magic for many 100 years. Can Prospero renew his art and make the wicked fiend depart? The stage is set, the deadly fight begins. I bid you pray for Prospero and watch to see who wins.
The minstrel vanished, and the great battle of sorcery began. The air turned murky. A violent stench filled the cavern as Prospero fell back and Romeo and Melinda huddled behind him. Caliban swung his great claw in their direction. Prospero raised his staff. The pool of white light grew and spread, forcing Caliban back into a corner of the cave. Swinging his great scaly head, Caliban returned to the center of the cavern and pulled himself to his full height. Prospero fell to his knees. Green lightning played across the rocky vault of the cavern. Thunder rolled, and the air was thick with smoke. Now the entire theater echoed to Caliban's powerful spell. Ragged fog swirled across the seats as it does across a stormy beach. Statues along the walls rose out of the fog like tortured sea monsters. Painfully, Prospero pulled himself erect. Now it was Caliban who fell back as a peaceful white light settled through the theater. But Caliban was far from finished. He rose and gestured violently toward the witch's grotto. In the dark air, the witch began to take shape. Prospero raised his staff.
Begone, dark spirit.
With a hideous scream, the witch faded back into darkness. A great calm descended once again on the cavern.
Well done.
Yet once more, Caliban's rage boiled forth to summon the witch. And yet, once more, Prospero raised his staff against her.
Begone, evil sister.
But the witch only grew brighter.
Begone, I say.
And she shot to the floor on a blinding bolt of lightning. Melinda clung to Romeo in terror. Through the smoke and lightning, Caliban and the witch cut nearer and nearer to Prospero.
Stay back, devil.
Prospero raised his staff to protect himself.
Get me down. Stay back.
But the monsters were upon him. They struck his staff from his hand and dragged him to the great table, which opened its steaming jaws to receive him. As Prospero fell into the smoke, the jaws of the table closed upon him. Caliban turned and delivered a hollow laugh of triumph.
Thou laughst too soon, evil Caliban.
It can't
It's possible.
That voice. Surely it was Prospero. And yet how could it be? Hadn't Romeo and Melinda with their own eyes seen him swallowed by the fiery pit? With a dreadful fear building in him, Caliban turned slowly toward the huddled shape of the witch. And then, before their eyes, the witch began to glow with a strange and beautiful light. Brighter and brighter grew the pool of light around the witch until it filled all the cavern with a blinding white light. The huddled form of the witch began to grow taller and taller, and as it did, the ugly rags melted away, and the hideous face of the witch dissolved into nothingness. As the rags dropped away, they revealed the mighty form of Prospero, standing before them in all his glory. Prospero raised his staff above the cowering figure of Caliban.
Now, wicked Caliban.
Wait!
Melinda, no.
Please, Sir Prospero, don't punish him. Poor creature. He can't help the way he is. People have hated and despised him for 400 years. No wonder his heart has turned to ice. Maybe if just once someone had been kind to him.
Melinda stooped to pick up Caliban's cape, which had fallen from him. Gently, she laid it about the monster's shoulders.
Here, Caliban, let me help you.
Melinda!
Don't be afraid.
But Caliban was afraid, for kindness was a new and frightening thing to him. He clutched his cape about him, backed away from Melinda's outstretched hand, whirled, and disappeared down one of the tunnels leading out of the cavern.
I only meant to help him.
He is not used to kindness. Only time will change that.
Thank you, Sir Prospero.
It is I who must thank you, Melinda. With all my power and wisdom, I had forgotten the greatest power of all, the power of love and kindness. For reminding us of that power, We spirits shall never forget you. Ah, but spirits like us are mere temporary things. The time grows near for us to depart. Farewell, Melinda.
Farewell, Prospero.
His work ended. Prospero faded back into the mist surrounding his throne, back into the picture frame above them, back into the spirit world from which he had come. At last, Shakespeare alone looked out on the darkening cave.
Farewell, sweet Melinda.
Farewell, my Romeo.
Gently, Romeo kissed Melinda's cheek. A strange sleepiness seemed to overtake her, and she sank to the stage floor. Just before she drifted off, she thought she saw the minstrel once more, standing over her and singing.
And thus our tale is laid to rest, with love and kindness doubly blessed. The gentle power of charity has triumphed over rage. But think ye, friend, if aught ye fear, we may have just been dreaming here, and wake to find our magic world was nothing but a stage. For dreams but float across the mind, like clouds across the sky, and just like me can vanish in a wink, with a blink of an eye.
And just as mysteriously as he had come, the minstrel disappeared, taking with him the ghostly cavern and leaving the theater, just a theater, filled with the whispering spirits of its own past.
Melinda!
Hey, wake up, Sleeping Beauty. It's time to go.
Melinda awoke with a start to find her friends returning to the stage.
He kissed me.
What?
Romeo kissed me.
You've been dreaming, dear. Come help me sort out these costumes.
But it wasn't a dream. There were all these spirits from Shakespeare's play, and they fought a battle here on the stage, and...
And they said you'd make a perfect Juliet.
Well, not exactly. But I know I would. Oh, I just know I could play Juliet now.
Because of a dream. Don't be a goose, Melinda. And by the way, I'm collecting script.
But it wasn't a dream, and I can play Juliet. I can.
Well. Now what's going on here?
She had a silly dream, and now she's more convinced than ever that she can play Juliet.
Well, perhaps she can. I wouldn't be so quick to laugh at other people's dreams if I were you, Allen. Would you like another chance to play Juliet's lines, Melinda?
Oh, Mr. Velasco, could I?
Well, I don't see why not. Here's Romeo. Now, Donald. Donald, will you help us out again, please?
Oh, sure.
All right. There's the bench. That's your balcony. Begin when ready.
How silver sweet sound lovers' tongues by night, like softest music to attending ears.
'Tis almost. Oh, dear.
Just as it appeared that she was about to fail again, Melinda's attention was caught by a small movement in the window high above the stage. In the window, she could just make out the image of a kindly and familiar face, nodding encouragement to her.
The spirits give thee a silver tongue.
A dream, her friends had called it. Nothing but a silly dream. Well, perhaps it was. And yet it was William Shakespeare himself who said, "There are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamed of in all your philosophies." And whatever it was, when Melinda turned her face back toward her friends on the stage, she was smiling the smile of Juliet.
'Tis almost morning. I would have thee gone, and yet no farther than a wanton's bird. Yet should I kill thee with much cherishing. Good night. Good night. Parting is such sweet sorrow that I would say good night till it be morning.